Sarah and her fiancé, Michael, are driving through the desert to visit her father, who is battling cancer, to invite him to their wedding. Their peaceful journey is interrupted by an impact from something invisible. However, upon inspecting the car, the couple finds no visible damage. Michael suggests they continue on their way. Unbeknownst to them, a stranger in a black car is observing them from a distance. Suddenly, the same stranger begins to pursue them, forcing their car to speed down the highway. A terrified Michael drives straight ahead until they reach a motel. Sarah tries to comfort her fiancé, assuring him it was likely a teenager playing a prank, and attempts to call her father to inform him of their delay. However, there's no cell service in this strange place. The couple decides to visit a nearby diner, Last Chance, to inquire about a phone. Inside, Michael, feeling hungry, convinces Sarah to stay for lunch. During their conversation, he makes an unpleasant suggestion to postpone the wedding to avoid dampening Sarah's mood. On such an important day, considering her father's condition, Sarah, irritated, proposes dropping the topic before they start arguing. When the waitress arrives, the couple orders coffee and a glass of water. Smiling, the waitress remarks how nice it is to see living people there. Sarah notices other patrons, a lone young woman and an elderly couple, to whom the manager is speaking, seemingly trying to persuade the woman to leave. When the waitress returns, she mentions that the elderly couple has been sitting there for a very long time, and gives the couple two coins to use in the jukebox or for other purposes. Michael takes advantage of this and selects a song, which to his surprise, turns out to be from an album he recorded in his youth. He mentions this to the waitress, who responds that they haven't had a celebrity there before. Sarah remembers the phone, and the waitress suggests they use the payphone outside, which surprises Michael, who is used to modern technology. He asks for their food to be packed to go, while Sarah tips the cook, commenting that he reminds her of her father, who worked hard all his life. The couple resumes their journey along Route 66. However, something invisible strikes their car again. Sarah suspects it happened in the same spot as before. Meanwhile, somewhere in the desert, their pursuer examines a photo of the couple before leaving it behind with 2 coins. Back at the diner, the cook and the waitress discuss the couple. They admit they feel sorry for them, but the manager reminds them of the deal they made to work there, which doesn't allow for sympathy toward their customers. On the road, the couple argues about how they managed to get lost despite driving on a straight road. Suddenly, they spot the black car of their pursuer parked nearby. Determined, Sarah walks toward the driver to confront him, but panics upon seeing the stranger's terrifying appearance and rushes back to their car, hitting the gas in a frenzy. Sarah notices they're critically low on fuel. Suddenly, they see the same diner and motel again and turn toward it, hoping to escape their relentless pursuer. Sarah firmly declares that it wasn't a human and rushes to call the police from the payphone. The officer on the other end of the line, who is actually the diner's manager, advises her to stay at the diner until a patrol arrives, which he claims will take 2 hours. Meanwhile, the manager reassures Michael, convincing him that they are completely safe there. He explains that the couple ended up back at the diner because they mistakenly turned left, instead of right at a supposed fork in the road. When Sarah insists that their GPS didn't show any loop, he replies that GPS doesn't work in this area because it's a dead zone. The manager concludes that the young couple is too exhausted to continue driving, and offers them a room at the motel for the night. Given the emergency, he even offers the room for free. Sarah asks the waitress for more coins, but unexpectedly, another diner, a woman with bandaged wrists, desperately tries to give her own coins to Sarah. The manager intervenes, stopping the woman and escorting her back to the bar, dismissing her as crazy but claiming they've gotten used to her. Afterward, he hands Sarah to more coins, and she heads back to the payphone, managing to call her father. However, her father cannot hear her on the other end. Meanwhile, the manager escorts the crying woman with bandaged wrists to one of the motel rooms. Despite her protests that she isn't ready and her cryptic warning that the one you're feeding will eventually come for you, he shoves her roughly into the room. The cook visits the couple to ask if they enjoyed their meal and discreetly slips them a note, but the manager intercepts it immediately. The manager then informs the couple that their room is ready and leads them to the motel. At one point, he calls Sarah by name, which immediately unsettles her, as Michael has only referred to her as baby the entire time at the diner. In the neighboring room, Sarah notices someone entering the room of the bandaged woman. Moments later, the window glass is covered with frost. Panicked, Sarah pleads with Michael to leave, but the manager persistently calls after them to stay and even chases after them. The couple hastily gets into their car and drives away. Back at the diner, the cook and waitress discuss the situation. They suggest helping the couple this time, but the manager dismisses the idea, stating that they're not altruists and adding that the couple will inevitably return to the diner soon. The couple continues their journey. At one point, Sarah spots their pursuer in the dessert and suggests that he might be working with the diner staff. Meanwhile, the kind-hearted cook urges the manager to reconsider and call their boss about the situation. The manager refuses, arguing that doing so would cost them everything they currently have, and people would still keep dying anyway. Suddenly, Sarah's dead phone receives a call from her father, warning them not to return. However, the voice of her father turns out to be the cook's voice. At that moment, something invisible strikes their car again. This time, Sarah begs Michael not to stop and to keep driving. Nevertheless, the black car reappears on the road, and their pursuer begins chasing them relentlessly down the highway. Realizing they won't escape their pursuer this way, Michael decides to make a sharp U-turn and drive in the opposite direction. Strangely enough, it works and the couple is left alone on the highway. However, Sarah soon points out that they no longer know where they're headed, and their fuel is nearly gone. Meanwhile, the cook decides to call the main boss to clarify the situation. The boss makes it clear that he has no intention of changing his plans regarding Sarah and Michael. Sarah stops the car, saying they could drive endlessly like this. Michael suggests they might be trapped in some kind of time loop, and theorizes that their pursuer needs them to stay on the road. He proposes leaving the highway and walking through the desert to try and break the cycle. At the same time, the waitress suggests teaming up against their boss, at least for the sake of the couple's child, who doesn't deserve such a fate. In response to her comments about their deal to live at the diner, the cook admits it was their choice at the time. However, he adds that calling such a life normal is a stretch. Soon the couple finds themselves back on the road, where they come across their overturned car, blood smeared across the windshield. They realize they're already dead. Their pursuer appears nearby, and Michael decides to confront him. Michael fights, but ends up severely wounded by the pursuer's claws. The couple runs back to their car and once again tries to flee down the highway, passing the diner 3 times. On the 4th loop, they finally pull into the diner. Sarah, leaving Michael inside, goes to speak with the manager, who, according to the staff, has been waiting for her. Outside, she sees the pursuer parked nearby and the manager, who explains that the pursuer is simply waiting for his prey, and that she and Michael are merely delaying the inevitable. He reveals that Sarah and Michael crashed their car and are now bleeding out somewhere on the road, but they are still alive for the moment. This place, he explains, was created so that those on the brink of death could have one last meal at the Last Chance Diner and peacefully fall into eternal sleep in one of the motel rooms, which has been waiting for them. Sarah says that if the end is inevitable, she's glad she's dying with Michael. The manager, overcome with emotion, decides to help her, saying they have a chance to survive if they fight, but they must fight not for each other, but for their unborn child, whom Sarah is carrying. The manager gives the cook the keys to the couple's car and rushes to call his boss, informing him that there might have been a mistake in Sarah and Michael's case. The boss responds that he has already reviewed their file but says there's nothing he can do. At that moment, the cook encourages Sarah, and she recognizes him as her father. The manager signals the cook to drive onto the highway. Sarah returns to the diner and, to regain her strength, passionately kisses Michael. As the cook and the pursuer race toward each other at full speed on the highway, Sarah is the first to open her eyes. And with that, this incredible story comes to an end. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel.